I'm going to demonstrate for you the difference between speaking in a large acoustic space with reverberation versus chanting in a large acoustic space with reverberation. The point of this is to illustrate why all the words that were spoken in medieval worship in Europe, in Christian churches, and even in Jewish temples and elsewhere, why those words are chanted from the standpoint of just being able to hear what's being said. Now, I'm in a large acoustic space. This is a church in downtown Nashville, and the building is about 75 years old. It's built of stone cinder block construction, and we've got stained glass windows on either side. So it's about as good as I could get to an approximation of a Gothic cathedral here in your average American city. This is a huge acoustic space. The room seats about 300 people if it were totally full. And the reverberation, the echo in here, is about 2.5 seconds maybe. So when I speak, my echo comes back to me. It might be a little much. It's about 2 seconds maybe. But that's pretty live. Your average classroom has no reverberation. The sound just goes out and falls flat. But in here, the right kinds of sounds, that reverberation can propagate and help certain types of sounds, like music, carry better, especially if I'm in the Middle Ages and I don't have microphones. Now, I'm in this space right now. Right now I'm about 10 feet from my microphone source, and I have a little air conditioning sound going on in the background. And so even at this distance, I feel like I have to speak loudly and slowly so that you can hear what I'm saying. Imagine what will happen when I back up to the chancel end of the church where the altar is, where all the speaking would happen from. And I'm going to try and I'm going to speak that way towards you, and then I'm going to chant the same thing. And let's see how that sounds. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Let me try something with a little more text. A poem by Lewis Carroll. 'Twas brillig, and the slimy toads did gyre and gimble in the wave. All mimsy were the rorquals, and the mome rats outbreak. 'Twas brillig, and the slimy toads did gyre and gimble in the wave. All mimsy were the rorquals, and the mome rats outbreak. Now, the things that I chanted just now, I chanted with not very many different pitches. I tended to chant on a single pitch with a few little ups and downs because I had a lot of text to get out. And that's just what happened in the medieval church. The texts that needed to be said that had lots of words that might be different from week to week or day to day, like prayers that change depending on what you're praying about. Those kinds of texts, and maybe the lessons from the Bible, because that's a lot of words that people are reading all at once, perhaps those texts would be chanted on a single pitch or a few single pitches. Da da da, once I'm here I chant on this tone, and I can stay on this tone for quite a lot of time. But when I get to the end, I have a little formula for ending. So that would be a very straightforward chant, where I could use lots and lots of words with few notes. If I had something to chant, some words that maybe were familiar to people, or were words that happened on a cycle that people would recognize, like the words of the Gloria, which is part of the Mass of the medieval church. The Gloria in Latin, the text is "Glory be to God on high," and it gets sung every time a communion service is celebrated. So the Latin text would be familiar. And so you might have a chant that's more florid, and so it would have more notes in it, like this one. Gloria in excelsis Deo. So that's how and why chant evolved in these big, big acoustic spaces as a vehicle for worship, because it was the acoustic way to get the words from the person's mouth who's speaking it out to anybody in the space who's hearing it.